This is the Obstacle Overcomer Podcast, dedicated to helping you overcome the obstacles that have been holding you back. My name is Nikki, and I'm a mother, author, empowerment speaker, singer, narrative changer, and obstacle overcomer. Each week, I'll be bringing you both the spiritual and practical tools that will empower you to overcome the challenges that you've been facing. You have the power to change the narrative of your life. You don't have to accept things as is. And always remember, obstacles are not barriers. They are stepping stones. I want to welcome you all to this very special edition of the Obstacle Overcomer Podcast. So today, I was scheduled to record an interview with this amazing young woman that I'm so excited to introduce to you all soon. And we had what seemed to be a technical issue, but was actually God opening up a door for us to minister and to really just encourage and speak life to one another. But it was also an opportunity for me to just come and talk to you all. Today's show is not going to be scripted because I cannot record the interview that I was supposed to record today. God laid this on my heart just to speak to you all. I don't even have a title for today's show. I lost a very dear friend of mine on Saturday, and I didn't even think that I was going to be able to do the initial interview that was scheduled for today because, I'm going through the grieving process. Part of what makes this a bit, difficult, and you probably can hear it in my voice, is this week I was going to be speaking with my friend about what day to get her scheduled to come on the podcast to talk about parenting. The issues that parents have, when they're raising their children and how to overcome them. She was such a remarkable mother and grandmother. She poured so much life into her children, and she did that for me with mine. When we first met, my sons were young, and she was there with me over the course of them growing up and during those teenage years with my oldest son. And she spoke so many wonderful nuggets into me to help me along because she had walked where I was, seeing as how her sons were a little bit older. She would give me just this amazing advice. And she was on a previous podcast that I hosted before, but I thought I've got to introduce her to my Overcomers family, because if there's anybody that can talk about overcoming parenting issues, it's her. I didn't get that opportunity to schedule it with her because the Lord decided it was time for that angel to come back home. So what he told me to talk to you all about is to share a couple of things with you that she taught me that have helped me tremendously over the years, as well as to remind you that life is but a vapor. If you watch the news, if you read the paper, you know that people are dying every day. And sometimes mass amount of people are dying over one senseless incident, one senseless killing. People are gone. People go to Walmart and they've died. And people have gone out to have a good night at a club and they've died. And so we don't know. We don't know how long our lives will be. Life is but a vapor. But if you are alive, then that means you still have something to do. There's still hope for you. There's still life to live. There are still things that God believes enough in you to do that he's been telling you, reminding you, almost nagging you, it feels like, to do it. But you've been afraid. You thought you weren't qualified, or you thought you didn't have what it would take. You didn't have enough money. You didn't know the right people. You weren't born with the silver spoon in your mouth. You have a disability, or you're too short. You're too skinny. You're too fat. Truly, you're not the one. And God wanted me to remind you that you are. My friend, her name was Kimberly. Her life impacted so many people. She had this desire to live every day. And we would talk sometimes. She told me that even in just her sitting, observing nature, just being quiet, listening to God, reading a book, that she would find God, that she would find meaning, and she would find peace. She would find a way to use that moment as a moment to care for herself, her mind, body, her spirit, her emotions. She would use anything God told her. Sometimes it may be to speak life to someone. Sometimes it may be to post a picture of herself. Sometimes it may be to go somewhere and speak. Sometimes it may be to start a business. Whatever it was, she would do it to the glory of God in obedience, knowing that it was for a purpose. She was always about purpose. And her gratitude, even though she had some challenges and she overcame so many things, she would find meaning and purpose in everything. She and I, years ago, before church started one day, she told me she wanted to speak with me about something that was on her heart to do. She and another friend of ours named Glad, we sat down and she said, God has put something on my heart to do. He wants me to bring women together because everyone has a call of God on their life. They need healing. They need ministering too. Because when they can get past that stuff, they can get busy with doing what God called them to do. And she told me, and glad that God put us on her heart to help her get it started, to get it going. And after Glad season being there was over, Kim and I sat down and we talked about like a strategy plan. This is what God says. We're going to pray about it and we're going to execute it. Her heart for the Women with the Call Life Empowerment Network was to bring women together. And if there were women that needed healing, that's what the Women with the Call was going to be. If the women needed resources, the women needed support or encouragement, that is what Women with the Call was going to be, because that's who Kim was. So Women with the Call was an extension of who she was. It was amazing how God used that ministry in her to touch and affect the lives of so many women. And then when God wanted her to do something else to touch lives, Kim did it. I'm saying all that to you to say, Kim is not here anymore, but her legacy and the things that she did to impact other people's lives still lives. What has God been telling you to do? What has He asked you to do? What did He say that seemed very, very simple? You didn't realize how impactful it would be because you didn't think you were qualified enough to do it. You didn't think that you had enough of what it took or that you had enough resources. Let me tell you something. When we started Women with the Call, we didn't. We had trust, we had faith, we had each other, but we had God. And every time we moved and made a step toward what God said to do, provision came. Let me tell you something. I was talking to someone today. While I was speaking to them, I heard God speak to me and I wrote it down for another reason, but I guess I need to share it with you in this moment. And that is fear stops the flow. See, some of you have been praying for God to open up financial doors and to open up healing and to open up a way to start your business, to open up a way to start your show, to open up a way to start your dream up. But you thought part of that opening up doors was going to be, well, when He provides all the money and all the way to do it, and He gives me complete total directions, that's going to be when I'll start. That's not how it works. God is going to open up those doors and God is going to do everything that He needs to do and that you need Him to do. But you got to start walking forward first. Kim and I had a motto, and that was forward is our only direction. We don't go backwards. We don't stay in the right now. If something happens, yeah, we may cry or vent or pray or have a moment. But when that moment is up, what's the action plan? What's the next move? Because forward is our only direction. Forward is the only place you can go when you're believing God to do something. Fear wants to keep you from going forward because fear wants to block the flow. The flow of what, Nikki? The flow of the provisions and the flow of the blessings that are coming towards you. But when you get in fear, fear blocks it. Because as you're walking toward what God is telling you to do, their provisions are coming up the other's opposite direction, straight towards you. But if fear can get you stopped, if fear can get you stuck, if fear can get you stagnant, the three dangerous S's: stopped, stuck, and stagnant. If fear can cause those things to happen, fear stops the flow of those provisions and those blessings. As you're moving forward, so are your blessings and provisions moving towards you. Here's the thing. There's a great enemy called Satan, but sometimes that great enemy is your own fear, your own disbelief, your own self-doubt, your own fear of failing or your own fear of success that will stop everything that you're praying for to come to pass because you won't be obedient and keep going forward. What if what you're praying for is right behind the door, but you're so afraid to walk up to the door and turn the doorknob that you don't realize that everything you needed was already there. All you had to do was open the door. That's what I've learned so much of the last couple of months. Kim told me one time, she told me this was like in 2011 or 12. There was a lot of stuff going on in my life. There were a lot of things going on in her life, and she and I were just sitting and talking, and she looked at me and she said, a lot of stuff that you're praying for is not going to happen till you're willing to let some stuff go. You got to release. And she started naming what those things were and those people before I have open hands to receive what God has. Fear had to be one of the things that I was willing to release. And that's the same thing for you. Please continue just to hang in there with me. I'm almost done. If you're not willing to let go of fear, you can't grab a hold to that doorknob and turn the knob and open the door and see everything that you've been waiting for you. If you're not willing to let go of the thoughts that you're not good enough, or the people that are pulling you backwards who don't want you to grab a hold of that door, or the mindset that keeps telling you you're not worthy to go through that door, or if you're not willing to let go of the disappointment because the last time you went to a door and turned the knob, nothing was there. If you're not willing to let go of bitterness and resentment of how somebody hurt you, or you feel damaged, or that they abandoned you, or they broke your heart, if you're not willing to let that go, you're always going to either stay stopped, stuck, or stagnant. What if the day you prayed for God to send provision, the angel of the Lord immediately started coming your way? But on his way there, he got held up fighting your fear. He got held up fighting your unwillingness to forgive. He got held up fighting your self-doubt, because every time you started doubting, out of your mouth, you started speaking all of these word curses over yourself, saying, well, I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy of it. He's coming with what you asked for, what God sent to you, but he's having to fight all of this stuff. Sometimes exactly what you need and what you want is coming straight towards you, but it keeps getting stopped. Today, I want you to stop stopping the flow. Put you some faith on and some courage, some trust. I may not understand why you want me to do this, God, but I'm going to do it. I'm terrified as I'm taking these steps forward toward this doorknob, but I'm not going to stop stepping till I get there. I don't have everything I need right now, God, but I trust when I keep moving in obedience, you are going to provide, lead, and guide me. There were times my friend would tell me about something that God told her to do, and she didn't know how he was going to do it, but what she did know is he said to do it. But as I saw her grow more and more in trust and faith in God, I can tell you this strength, this boldness, this confidence. And as she would say, one thing I know for sure, that God is God and he was going to take care of her. He was going to take care of it. Her job was to be obedient. That was her job, was to wait on the timing. And when the timing of God was and the instructions of God came, to be obedient. And I speak that over all of us today. Just be obedient. If he's saying do it, do it. Because I'm going to bring it back to what I said at the beginning. Life is but a vapor. I saw my friend start some businesses that she wanted to start, dreams that were on her heart, and she did them. She did them. I know one time we talked and she told me, like, sometimes it didn't matter. You can do what God tells you to do, and it seemingly on the outside looks like it didn't succeed or that it failed. Something didn't go right because it wasn't for this length of time or that. No, the blessing, the experience is the journey. Sometimes that's what it is. It's needed for the next thing. But she did it. I believe she died with no regrets. I truly believe when she died, she was empty. She was empty. She spent her days encouraging other people, praying for, believing for, being strength for. Sometimes just her presence was strength. Sometimes just reminding people, not of where they were, but of who God said they were, was strength for people. And even if that is what God is calling you to do, don't hesitate to do it. Don't be afraid to speak to people and show kindness in public and be encouraging to someone. I remind you that life is but a vapor. Live every day of your life to the fullest. My friend she loved to laugh. We would laugh at each other, laugh at our children, laugh about our mistakes, laugh about our quirks. She enjoyed her family. She loved her family. She loved being a grandmother or a nana. She loved her husband. She loved exalting, encouraging, and lifting people up. That is how she lived her life. I truly believe she was ready. What I want to leave with you from her life is I want you to live ready. I want you to live your life so that every day you are fearlessly or willing to do with fear, willing to do everything that you are called and meant to do, and that's on your heart, that you would laugh a lot and smile a lot, that you will have a good time, that you don't let money stop you from living, that you don't let self-doubt and the opinions of other people stop you from living, that you go and put your bare feet in the wet sand if that's what you decide to do, because it's such a beautiful day outside, that you sit outside and you enjoy the birds chirping with a cup of coffee, because in the moment, that's what's going to bring you joy. That you not waste one more moment of your life dwelling on how hard your life is or your disappointments, or that you not waste another day allowing your fears to block your flow, to overcome and overtake you. Every day that you have, live. So when it is your time, you would have died empty. That you wrote your book and you got it out of you. That you wrote those songs that were burning in your heart. That you go sing karaoke because you've always wanted to sing on stage. That you go become that motivational speaker because you have something to say. I don't care if you have to stutter till you get it out, but that you get it out. That we would all have all the time in the world. But since we know we don't, you have the opportunity to live. Live with joy, live with gratitude, live with no regrets. The very last thing I want to say is this. I didn't know the last words that I said to her Tuesday would be the last words. Make sure that you tell the people that you love them. If you have someone that you need to forgive, make sure you forgive them. If you have someone that's been on your mind you need to call or spend time with or go have lunch with, make time in your schedule to do so. If you haven't told your children that you love them, take the time to do it. You don't know when the last thing that you say to someone will be the last thing. That is all. That is all I have. I pray that something was said to get you unstuck and to empower you to move forward. Thank you so much for tuning in to this special edition of the Obstacle Overcomer podcast. I am your host, Nikki Johnson. I want you all to remember that you are an overcomer. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much for joining me today. If this was your first time tuning in, welcome to the Overcomers family. I cannot adequately express my gratitude to all of you for tuning in today. If today's show helped or impacted you in any way, it would help me tremendously if you would review and rate today's episode. And please be sure to leave me a comment on whatever platform you are listening to this podcast. Also, be sure to connect with me over on Facebook and Instagram at the Obstacle Overcomer Podcast. And if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, you will be notified every time there's a new episode available. And don't forget that sharing is caring. So please go ahead and tell a friend and share this with your loved one, because this will help me to reach those who really need a word to empower their lives. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget that obstacles are not barriers. They are stepping stones. Talk to you next week.